Twilight bled into the forest, painting the ancient trees in hues of purple and grey. Mist rose from the damp earth, swirling like phantom dancers amongst the gnarled trunks. The air, thick with the smell of decaying leaves and damp earth, hung heavy and oppressive. A deep silence blanketed the woods, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or the rustle of unseen creatures. The path, barely discernible beneath a carpet of fallen leaves, snaked deeper into the woods. Each step forward seemed to pull the traveler further into the embrace of the ancient trees, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The forest held its breath, watching, waiting, a silent predator biding its time. Lila stumbled through the deepening shadows, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. Lost. She was utterly lost. The map, clutched uselessly in her trembling hand, offered no solace in this labyrinth of trees. A chill wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it a murmur of sound that sent shivers down her spine. Voices? Were those voices she heard? They seemed to slither around the edges of her awareness, just beyond the realm of comprehension. Lila quickened her pace, her breath catching in her throat. The whispers grew louder, weaving themselves into the rustling leaves and the creaking branches. They spoke her name, a chorus of disembodied voices that seemed to emanate from the very air itself. Through the swirling mist, a shape emerged. A structure, dark and brooding, stood silhouetted against the dying light. A cabin. Relief, sharp and unexpected, washed over Lila. A flicker of hope in this desolate landscape. As she drew closer, the whispers seemed to intensify, clinging to her like cobwebs. The cabin, dilapidated and half-hidden beneath a tangle of creeping vines, seemed to emanate an unsettling aura. A faint light flickered in the single window, beckoning her closer. Hesitantly, Lila approached, her hand hovering over the tarnished doorknob. The whispers reached a fever pitch, swirling around her, urging her forward. With a deep breath, she pushed open the door and stepped inside. The air inside the cabin was heavy with the smell of decay and damp earth. Dust motes danced in the single beam of light that illuminated the room. Furniture, draped in dusty sheets, loomed in the shadows like phantoms. And still, the whispers persisted, echoing around her, seemingly emanating from the very walls themselves. Her gaze fell upon a rug, slightly askew, revealing a trapdoor beneath. A cold draught snaked up from the opening, carrying with it the faintest hint of something ancient and unutterably foul. The whispers seemed to converge around the opening, beckoning her down into the darkness. Curiosity, a dangerous companion, warred with fear. Lila found herself drawn to the trapdoor, compelled by an unseen force. With trembling hands, she pushed the rug aside and peered into the abyss. A rickety ladder led down into the darkness. Lila hesitated, her heart pounding against her ribs. The whispers swirled around her, urging her onward. Taking a deep breath, she began her descent into the unknown. The air grew colder, damper as she descended. The whispers grew louder, morphing into distinct voices, their words echoing off the damp stone walls. They spoke of betrayal, of loss, of a darkness that consumed all. The ladder ended abruptly, depositing Lila onto a cold, damp floor. As her eyes adjusted to the gloom, she realized she stood in a vast cavern, its ceiling lost in the darkness above. Strange symbols etched into the walls pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly light. Panic clawed at Lila's throat. What was this place? And who were the voices that echoed around her? She stumbled back, her hand searching for purchase on the damp stone wall. A cold hand closed around her wrist. Lila screamed, a primal sound that echoed through the cavern. She thrashed against her unseen assailant, her heart pounding in her chest. Shadows shifted in the darkness, taking on grotesque shapes that seemed to mock her terror. The voices, no longer whispers but angry hisses, urged her pursuers onward. They were hunting her, she realized. These creatures of shadow and sound. And they would not stop until they had her. Leela broke free, scrambling away from the grasping shadows. She stumbled through the darkness, her lungs burning, her feet slipping on the damp stone floor. The cavern seemed to stretch on forever, a labyrinth of shadows and echoing voices. Then she saw it, a faint light flickering in the distance. Hope, fragile but persistent, bloomed in her chest. With renewed determination, she surged forward, her breath rasping in her throat. The voices rose in a crescendo of rage behind her, urging her pursuers onward. They were gaining on her, their cold breath hot on her neck. But she would not give up. She would not let them win. The light grew stronger, revealing an opening in the cavern wall. Leila scrambled through the opening, collapsing onto the soft earth beyond, the taste of freedom bitter-sweet on her tongue. She had escaped, for now. Leila glanced back at the opening, half expecting to see her pursuers emerge, but the entrance remained dark, silent. Had it all been a dream? A figment of her imagination? As she turned to leave, she noticed something strange. The whispers, though fainter now, still lingered at the edge of her awareness, and they seemed to be coming from within her own mind. Leila walked away from the forest, her steps slow and uncertain. She had escaped the cavern, but a part of her, a dark and unsettling truth, remained trapped within its depths.